Hey guys, this is Ingrid. Welcome back. To start this look, I'm using a Master Blur Stick by Face Studio. This is by Maybelline. It's pretty much a pore filler. So what it does is it fills your pores and it gives it that blur, almost like a filter. Next, I'm moving on to my NYX Studio Perfect Photo Loving Primer. This I do use all over my face, and it's just to prime to make sure I have a nice base to put my foundation on top of it. You have to let it dry for a little bit before you apply the foundation. I'm applying my foundation. This is the L'Oreal True Match in Lumi, and I'm using the shade Neutral N1/2, and I'm using a EcoTools sponge. This is a dampened sponge, and I'm gonna apply the foundation all over my face and down my neck. And if you feel like you need to use a little bit more, you can always layer it up on the areas that you feel like you have to. In this case, I'm going under my eyes just to cover a little bit more my freckles and my bags. Next, I'm moving on to my concealer. This is the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind, and this is in the shade Ivory. This has to be a couple shades lighter than your foundation just to highlight those areas in the center of your face. And again, I'm going in with the EcoTools sponge, just blending everything in and tapping it on the skin to make sure I get a seamless blend. With the blur stick and the primer that I used before, you're really gonna get that look of porcelain skin, filtered skin, blurred skin that everybody pretty much looks for when they apply makeup on. And now I'm gonna set my under eye, always looking up, with a setting powder. In this case, I'm using my Pretty Vulgar setting powder in it's pretty much translucent, so it has no tone to it, no shade. It's just to make sure that everything is set in place and it doesn't crease. I'm gonna set the rest of my face with my Revlon Color Stay in the shade Medium Light, and this is just to make sure, again, the foundation doesn't move and it stays put. Moving on to bronzing and contouring, I'm going to use my Butter Bronzer by Physicians Formula in the shade Deep. I'm sorry. And going on right underneath the apples of my cheeks to kind of cut my cheek and give it that snatched hollow cheek look. And just make sure that you blend it. It's better to blend up than to blend down to make sure that it looks seamless. Also going on my jawline to make my jaw look a little bit more defined and to thin out the face, and also in my forehead right by my hairline to give it the sun-kissed look. Next, I'm going to take that bronzer and I'm actually going to contour my nose a little bit just to make sure that it looks a little bit more snatched. And I don't like a sharp contour. I think it looks a little bit too fake in person, but if you do want to do this, make sure that you blend it out. And then I like to go on top with my beauty sponge with any extra concealer or powder that's on top, just to make sure that it looks seamless and just like a little shadow. Next, I'm moving on to eyebrows, and I'm using my Brow Stylist Definer by L'Oreal. This is in the shade Dark Brunette. Using the spoolie to brush out the edges, making sure it's not too harsh, and combing the hairs. Moving on to eyes, I'm using my Huda Ruby Obsessions palette, and I'm not using a primer. I am just setting the eyes with a light shade. It's almost like a bone color shade. Just priming and prepping the eyes with that. Moving on to a darker shade. And I'm switching the brushes. This is more of a precise brush that allows me to deposit the shadow exactly where I want it. So I'm tapping in first where I want the most color, And then I'm buffing it out, bringing it all the way to that inner corner and making sure that everything is seamless. Again, tapping the color first where I want it deposited the most, and then buffing it out. Going in the under eye with a little bit of the same color just to make sure everything is connected. Changing the brush, I'm using a Morphe brush, a little bit more defined, and I'm taking a little bit of concealer and I'm cutting half of the crease. I'm not going all the way out. It's just the inner corner towards the middle, just to get that defined line. The concealer acts as, like it says, to cut the crease, to make sure we get that sharp edge, that sharp line. But it also acts as a primer for whatever you're going to put on top, because it dries a little bit on the stickier side if you don't set it. So once you apply that powder on top of it, or a better case, a glitter, it's going to stay put, it's not going to move, and you're not going to get a lot of fallout. Again, blending those edges with the other brush just to make sure it's not as rough and to correct any mistakes you made. And now going in with the glitter that I just showed you, I'm tapping it in to get the most pigmentation out of the product. Tapping the product into the concealer, make sure it sticks. Taking a little bit of that deeper shade and just defining the outer corner into the crease to give it a little bit more of dimension. Next, I'm going to go with the NYX Wonder Pencil in the shade Light Clear, and I'm lining my under eye waterline. That was a mouthful. My waterline in the under eye, I'm using, it's a light nude shade that is going to make your eyes look awake, look bigger. You know, you can always go, and I like to go with a black eyeliner, but it depends on the look that you're looking for. If you use a nude shade for the under waterline, it brightens up your eye and it makes you look more awake. Next, we're winging the top eyeliner with the NYX Epic Ink Liner. This is a felt tip, it's a liquid eyeliner, and this is in the shade Black. Next, using my Superhero It Cosmetics mascara, excuse my dancing, I'm gonna, this is in the shade Super Black, and I'm just gonna coat my eyelashes top and bottom. I really love this mascara. I've tried a bunch, and I feel like this one really does what I need it to do. Using my Tarte palette, I'm going to highlight the inner corner. And this is pretty much any shimmer shade that you have that it's on the bright white, bright gold side, depending on the look that you're doing. You want to brighten that inner corner to, again, make yourself look more awake, bring more attention to your eyes. And then I'm using that same shade to brighten my brow bone as well. Moving on to blush, I'm using the same contour brush, just tapping off the excess. Any peachy blush or any tone of blush that you would like on your skin tone would do. I feel like anything that has a peachy undertone, not so pink, works good for me. And if you feel like you've put too much on, you can always go back with your sponge and just tap out on top of it to the powder and any residue that's there from your foundation and your concealer. It's gonna kind of manage the excess and balance everything out. And then for a highlight, I'm using more of a pinky rose gold highlight just to bring out a little bit more of that blush and to make it look a little bit more on the natural side. If I do love a golden highlight that makes it look super blinding, even though this one is pretty blinding too, but it blends a little bit better with the blush. So I tend to do this look a little bit more, I use this highlight a little more for like daytime kind of looks, but it is a really pretty highlight. So you can use that as well, or you can use it as blush too. It's up to you how you would like your highlight. Then moving on to lips, I'm using my Ofra lipstick in the shade Havana Nights. When I tend to use this kind of lipsticks that are so deep and rich in color, I do like to take my time. I line the lips very carefully. I don't take a lot of product right away. I like to build it up. So it's very important that put a little bit on and then build from it. Less is more, because once you put too much, there's really no saving it from there. And especially when it comes to this type of colors, the better quality the product is, the more you can layer it and play with it. And the final step before I forget would be my NYX setting spray, just to make sure that everything melts into the face and everything melts together. If you ever feel like you've applied too much, you can always tap it with your sponge. Nothing's going to happen to it. And just let it dry. This is the final product and this is the result. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and follow me on Instagram. Any likes, any comments are greatly appreciated, and let me know if there's anything you want to see on my next video. Thank you so much.